No historic event was more encompassing than that of French Revolution. It was, in fact, one of the most bloodiest episodes in the history of humanity, and it helped us to break the shackles and barriers that actually prevented the transition from medieval period to the modern world. Hi, this is Matthew. I'm a UPC trainer, and this channel is providing free tutorials for the aspirants who are preparing for civil service examination. And today we'll be having a brief discussion on the French Revolution. French Revolution is actually a series of events which actually started on 14th July 1789 with the storming of the notorious Bastille Fort, and it lasted till the ascent of Napoleon the Great as the ruler of revolutionary France. Okay. So it was actually a 9 years of bloodshed and political chaos. This messy period is known as, or we describe it as, French Revolution. The French Revolution is considered as a social revolution. Okay. In the last videos, we discussed about Industrial Revolution and American Revolution. Industrial Revolution was an economic revolution of the 18th century. American Revolution was the political revolution of the 18th century. And this revolution is considered as the social revolution of the 18th century. This is considered as a social revolution because French Revolution did not bring about significant economic or political transitions. Explorations and industrialization had already started in France, okay, even by 1789. So any significant economic change could not be seen after or during the time of French Revolution. Significant political change is also not associated with this revolution because a despotic regime of the monarchs was replaced by the despotic regime of Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, after this French Revolution, even though a republic was proclaimed in 1791, the republican ideals were hijacked by Napoleon, and he himself proclaimed as the Emperor of France in 1804. So significant political change also did not happen due to French Revolution. But the social effects of this French Revolution, even it had a profound impact on the societies across the world even today. First of all, this revolution acted as the death knell to feudalism. Even the mighty Napoleon, who had concentrated almost all the political power in post-revolutionary France, even he did not have the guts to bring back the medieval era, the feudalism, which was the product of medieval era. Okay, so inspired by the revolutionary France, people across the world fought against this oppressive system. And secondly, the ideas contributed by this revolution, it is influencing human societies even today. Equality, liberty, fraternity were the rallying cries of the French Revolution. And the revolutionary France also brought out two important political doctrines which are important even today, and that would be nationalism and secularism. And for the examination point of view, let us start, okay, some of the causes that led to this intense bloodshed during 1789 to 1795. Okay, and we shall have discussion on political, social, and economic causes. And first, we will start with the political causes. In the political causes, we should always start with the despotic and incapable rulers of France. Okay. The ancient regime of the France was characterized by huge concentration of power at the hands of these monarchs, and they were highly despotic, arrogant, and incapable rulers as well. Especially Louis XV and Louis XVI. The revolution happened during the time of Louis XVI, and the last two rulers, Louis XV and Louis XVI, they destroyed the pride and the glamour associated with the French crown. There was an instrument associated with with the monarchs called as lettres de cachet, and this instrument was actually used to imprison anyone who was hated by the monarchs or the royal families. And these types of instruments, it made the monarchical system as well as the royal family is highly unpopular in France, and they were incapable to bring prosperity to France as well. Okay, they did not bring economic prosperity to France. Apart from that, they destroyed or they put France into severe economic strain by dragging that country into unnecessary wars. The 7 Years' War, okay, it destroyed the French economy, and after that, despite not recovering from that financial crisis, the rulers of the France, they began to support American Revolution without looking into the economic situation of their home country. So the rulers, they were highly unpopular by 1789. And another thing that made these monarchs unpopular was the extravagance. And not only these monarchs, the nobles as well as the upper clergy, they competed with these monarchs and the other members of the royal families when it comes to extravagance. And there was no end to their extravagance even during dire financial crisis. And another thing which you should always, which is interesting to note, that was there was no uniform system of administration in France. The laws, the systems, the political conventions, it varied from province to province. And as a result of that, the common people, had to face numerous difficulties when they approached the state or the administration. And almost all the public institutions were made a monopoly of few noble families, and the administrative actions were taken arbitrarily by these nobles. And as a result of that, the entire administrative system became senseless and quite oppressive as well. Since the nobles, they made the public institutions and public offices hereditary, there was no question of meritocracy in that. It seriously deteriorated the quality of public administration due to nepotism. And finally, you should always add American Revolution as a cause to French Revolution. The idea that the people could actually overthrow a despotic regime, it inspired the people of France in 1780s. So these are some of the important political causes that actually inspired the people of the France to overthrow the ancient regime. Then we shall next move to the economic causes. And primarily, it was the financial crisis that actually forced the people to come out on streets and to resort to violent means to overthrow a regime that had completely failed to recover from this financial crisis. And the major cause for this financial crisis was the extravagance of the political elite, the unnecessary wars and the overseas adventures brought by these political elite. Then you should also have an understanding about the system of taxation created by the ancient regime when you study French Revolution. Okay, the burden of taxation, it always fell on the common people. Even during the financial crisis period, the church as well as the nobles, they were completely exempted from taxation. So the burden of taxation, it completely fell on the common people as well as on the middle class, and they finally resorted to overthrow that system. Okay, so there was a French maxim that correctly describe the scenario or the economic scenario of France during that point of time, and that was: the clergy pray, the nobles flight, and the common man pay. Another important cause, economic cause, was the extreme inequality that we could find in France during the time of ancient regime. The nobles who hardly, who hardly was 1% of the population, they almost held 2/5 of the total assets. The extreme inequality and extreme poverty forced the people to actually raise the banner of rebellion in France. Then another important point which you should note should be the development of new economic forces associated with industrialization and overseas explorations. These two things, it created a new powerful class in France, and we can call them as a middle class: the doctors, the lawyers, the bankers, the industrialists, okay, who were quite educated as well as economically well off. And since the public offices and public institutions were made the monopoly of the nobles, the administration was never sympathetic to their genuine to their genuine needs and aspirations. And this class, who were more powerful, they became highly discontent towards the end of 1780s. It was this class who actually acted as the brain of French Revolution. Always remember that the common peasants or the workers, they never had the brain nor the capacity even to initiate or to develop this revolution. The farmers as well as the common working population, they just followed this middle class who acted as the brain of the revolution. So one of the main blunder done by the ruling elite of the ancient regime was that they antagonized this powerful middle class. And finally, France witnessed, okay, crop failures in consecutive years just prior to 1789. Okay, the year 1788 as well as 1787 saw significant crop failures, and it pushed France into virtual poverty. During the winter of 1788, the people of France, many people of the France, they literally had to eat the barks of tree in order to save themselves from extreme poverty. So by early 1789 itself, food riots had begun in France, and it actually turned out into a revolution by July 14, 1789. It is also imperative to look into the social causes. It is being said that French Revolution attacked privileges, not property. Okay, it is a common saying among historians that the French Revolution actually attacked privileges, not property. It is true to a great extent. Okay. See, the nobles as well as the upper clergy, they enjoyed huge privileges during the time of ancient regime. See here, we shall have a discussion on an interesting development that happened during the ruler Louis XIV. See, Louis XIV, he was actually a very powerful monarch, and his policies increased the pride and prestige of the French crown. He actually wanted to end the dependence of French monarchs on the nobles. Okay. So in order to end that dependence, he began to construct a standing army for France. Okay. So before that, the French monarchs, they were always dependent on these nobles because nobles provided bulk of the soldiers to the French army. So in order to remove that dependence, Louis XVI, who preceded Louis XIV, he created a standing army. So after that, basically, the nobles, they had no important political function, but they continue to enjoy the privileges. So when a common man or an educated individual from the middle class, when he look to these nobles, only thing he saw was that they enjoy privileges without having any important political function or responsibilities. Okay, so without any important political function, they even made those public offices hereditary, so that their future generation would continue to enjoy these privileges. The clergy also, okay, the upper clergy of the Roman Catholic Church also enjoyed huge privileges, and they lived a very luxurious life. And during that point of time, the priest, especially the upper clergy, they had no empathy to the the situations of the common man. And as a result of that, an antagonism began to develop in the French society against the upper clergy as well. Even during severe economic crisis and strains, the ancient regime relieved the church from the burden of taxation. And as a result of all these factors, the church lost its moral high ground to either inculcate virtues in the population or to create a consciousness of guilt. See, always try to understand the basic function of religion. Religion during medieval and ancient period played a vital function, and that was to bring a social order. Okay. And that social order was created by religion, either by inculcating virtues or by creating a consciousness of guilt in the individuals of that society. But in by 1789, the church had lost that moral high ground to do either of these functions. And apart from that, a strong antagonism also began to develop, against the upper clergy in French society. Another important thing which you should keep in mind would be the role of philosophers. About these philosophers, we discussed in our previous sessions when we approached Enlightenment and Romanticism. The philosophers like Voltaire, or Rousseau, or Baron de Montesquieu, or Denis Diderot, they all were propounding new ideas regarding political systems. And in order to bring about that changes, they knew that this ancient regime had to go. So basically their ideas were attacking the existing political and religious authorities, and their viewpoints and ideas, it actually created a revolutionary fire among the common people of France, which could be only quenched by a violent revolution. And regarding questions which we discussed till now, UPSC had asked certain important questions, and it is important to discuss that as well. The cause of the French Revolution of 1789 included both long-term and structural factors, as well as more immediate events critically examined. This was a question once asked by the UPSC. Another question was, French Revolution attacked privileges, not property. Comment. So these types of questions could be asked from the from various bodies when from this area called French Revolution. So regarding the second question, you should always discuss, or you should always write, or you should always present important points regarding the social causes of French Revolution. But it doesn't mean that you should skip the political and economic causes as well. First you should write the social causes, then move on to the political and economic causes as well. And now we can move on to the course of revolution. Basically it all started with a dire financial crisis. France was facing extreme financial crisis, and king had no other option than to increase taxes on the common population. But the common population, due to successive crop failures, the common population was on the verge of extreme poverty and extreme famine. So increasing the taxes during that point of time was bound to invite severe criticism towards the regime. And as a result of that, to negate that strong reaction, the king decided to summon the famous Estate General. See, Estate General was actually a representative institution that occurred during the monarchical France, and its history lies in the 100 Years' War with Britain. During 100 Years' War with Britain, the ruling elite of France, they required the support of the common population as well. So they created some sort of a representative institution known as Estate General. Estate General is actually an assembly of 3 classes, which was known by the name estates. The first estate represented the clergy, the second estate represented the nobility, and the third estate represented the common population. And it was last met in 1614. After that, this representative institution was made irrelevant by the political elite. But since the king knew that raising of taxes would invite severe criticism, he actually decided to summon a state general so that people will have an impression that these taxes were raised after consulting with their representatives. Okay. So it was actually the advice regarding the summoning of a state general was actually given to the king by a popular personality named Jacques Necker. Even the appointment of Jacques Necker as finance minister was also a result of this economic crisis. Okay. Jacques Necker was a popular personality in the French society, and it actually forced this economic crisis actually forced the king to appoint Jacques Necker, and he advised. Jacques Necker was in favor of taxing both first and second estate, and this economic crisis actually forced the king to appoint this Necker as the finance minister, and he advised the king to summon the estate general. Upon hearing the advice of Necker, king summoned the estate general, and here you should know that due to food riots that began to occur in the early 1789, there was significant militancy attached to the third estate. Okay. So their demand was quite radical during this point of time. Third estate, even though they represented 97% of the population, but only they enjoyed only 1/3 representation in the entire estate general. So this militancy associated with food riots, it prompted the deputies of the third estate to demand more from the king. They demanded taxation and on first and second estate, as well as more representation for the deputies of third estate in the estate general. But the king, he actually got threatened by the militancy expressed by the deputies of the third estate. So he reacted foolishly. Okay, so he refused to admit the deputies of the third estate to the estate general. Okay, and this created angry reaction from the side of these deputies. These deputies, they went to a nearby tennis court and they proclaimed themselves as the National Assembly. They proclaimed that they are the legitimate popular representative institution in France. The State General had lost its legitimacy, and this National Assembly is the legitimate representative institution in France. And this proclamation is generally known as the famous tennis court oath. Okay. And not only that, they also declared that they will never leave this tennis court until a new constitution is framed. They took an oath that they will never leave this tennis court until a new constitution is framed. This oath is famously known as the tennis court oath. And king again reacted reactively. He proclaimed this newly proclaimed National Assembly as illegal. But these deputies of the third estate who consider themselves as the National Assembly, they reacted defiantly. Okay. They continued to meet in that tennis court as the self-proclaimed National Assembly. Okay, so king decided to even to use force. Okay, even to use the army to disperse and to crush this National Assembly. And upon hearing the news, the members of the National Assembly, okay, they formed an armed wing named National Guard to protect themselves. And in this volatile situation, king took another foolish step. He decided to dismiss the popular finance minister Necker. It was mainly due to the pressure from the first estate and second estate. Okay, because Necker was in favor of taxing the first estate and second estate, but the king sided with the upper clergy and the nobles, and he dismissed Necker. And the people, they ventured into the streets to protest against this decision. And near the Bastille fort, which was notorious for torture and extrajudicial killing in France, people came near the Bastille fort, okay, as a sign of protest against the decision of the king to dismiss Necker. And the governor of the Bastille fort, he ordered his troops to fire on these protesting civilians. it later on led to unimaginable consequences. The people, they attacked the soldiers and the governor. They killed every armed member who was protecting that prison. And that incident is known as the storming of Bastille Fort, and this happened in 14th July. And the news about the storming of Bastille Fort by the common people of France, it later on unleashed irrepressible torrent of the revolution. Okay, these riots, the food riots, began to turn into a violent revolution in France. Riots began to occur all across Paris as well as in the countryside. The nobles and their family members, they became the victims of the fury of the common people. As a result of that, many members of the royal family as well as nobles, along with their families, they began to flee France to seek refuge and safety. The common people, they began to attack the properties, the bungalows, the godowns of the nobles, and they began to distribute the wealth amongst themselves. And when the news about this violence finally appeared before the king, he asked, "Is it a revolt?" And the duke near to him answered, "No, sir, it's a revolution." And we will move on to the important development answer. Okay, so by 4th August, okay, most of the nobles and the important members of the ancient regime, they had to flee France to save themselves from the violence unleashed by the common people. Okay, so by 4th August, the National Assembly was controlling much of the France, and this assembly, they abolished, they proclaimed that they are abolishing feudalism and the associated privileges associated with it. And on 26th August, they brought out an important civil document, civil right document known as Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen. It is an important civil document, along with the Magna Carta of 1215 or the Bill of Rights of 1689 or the American Constitution of 1789 in the history of humanity. And this declaration, it promised the people of France some inalienable rights. So during this point of time, there began to spread rumors about the decision of the king to gather the army to crush this common population and their revolution. So when this rumor began to get strong, the women of the Paris, they began to organize. Okay, almost 20,000 women, they stormed the palace of the French monarch. Okay, it was located in a place named Versailles, and they stormed the Versailles palace, and king and queen both were brought to Paris from Versailles, and after that they were placed under the protection of National Guard. And this action, it gave legitimacy to National Assembly. Even the king was under the protection, under the control of National Assembly, and this notion actually gave a sense of legitimacy to National Assembly. And this National Assembly then ruled France for the next 2 years. An analysis regarding this rule is also important if you are studying French Revolution. Okay, I will just give a brief analysis. Okay, first of all, they abolished feudalism and privileges associated with that system. Second important contribution of that assembly was that they brought out the famous Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen. Next thing would be, they dealt with the church. Okay. There was strong antagonism towards the actions of the clergy, the members of the clergy of the Roman Catholic Church, and the National Assembly represented the revolutionary favor. Okay, so as a result of that, their fury fell on the church as well. The properties of the church were confiscated and it was redistributed among the common population. We can call it as some sort of land reforms. Okay, it actually brought some relief for the economic crisis faced by the French economy. And then, religious toleration was also proclaimed, and clergy was forced to take an oath of allegiance to the new constitution, which was brought in 1791. Then, they to a great extent, they tackled the finance of the country. Okay, they confiscated properties of the church as well as the nobles. It proved to be a useful measure. And apart from that, they also issued a new currency called assignats, which brought some relief to the French economy. And another important contribution of this assembly was that they brought out a uniform and a proper system of administration in France. Okay. And finally, they framed a new constitution by 1791. The France was ruled as per this new constitution from 1792 to 1795. And this rule is called as the rule of the National Convention. Okay, in order to understand this concept, you will have to have a basic understanding about the 1791 Constitution. The 1791 Constitution of France declared the country as a constitutional monarchy. Okay, along with that, this constitution also created a parliament, which was called by the name National Convention. And this National Convention actually ruled France till 1795. The deputies to this parliament was actually indirectly elected as well. Okay. A period from 1791 to 1792, okay, this National Convention was dominated by a political faction called Girondists. Okay, these Girondists are also called as Brissotists because their main leader was a person named Jacques Pierre Brissot. The Girondists, they mainly belonged to the much more affluent section of the society, mainly from the middle class. Okay, the industrialists, the bankers, okay, doctors, lawyers, etc. Okay, so they actually belong to belong to the somewhat well-off sections of the society. And another interesting thing was they mainly came from the countryside of the France. Okay, they mainly came from the countryside of the France and not from Paris. Okay, and they were, reformist in nature. They never advocated radical, changes like complete overhauling of the society and economy. They pitched for, slow reforms. And a lenient treatment towards the king and other members of the ancient regime. And this political faction, Girondins, they actually dominated the National Convention from 1791 to 1792. But these Girondins, they were expelled in 1792 because they were considered as too soft and too slow. And the faction that actually expelled these Girondins, they were called as Montagnats. These Montagnats, they could be classified as the left within the revolution. These people, they mainly came from Paris, and moreover, they mainly represented the lower class of France. Okay, most of the people, most of the deputies who consider themselves as Montagnats, they were the representatives of the common working population of Paris. Okay, so they consider this Girondist as somewhat soft, okay, and incapable, or as a faction who could even hijack the ideals of revolution. So these Montagnats, they expelled these Girondists in 1792, and after that they even declared France as a republic. Okay, this Montagnat faction in National Convention, they brought out a declaration that France would be from then onwards a republic, and that France is known as the First Republic. Okay. So the expulsion of Girondists created serious apprehensions in some sections of the French society, especially the people of various provinces. They actually hated the excessive influence of the people of Paris. In this National Convention, they actually wanted a federal constitution. Okay, in order to negate the excessive influence of Paris in National Convention. And they were also opposing the extreme radicalization of these Montagnats. And since there was no issue of conciliation, it actually turned out into a bloody revolt. Okay, it is commonly called as the Federalist Revolt. Okay, and these people, they fought against these Montagnards or Montagnards because they were against the concentration of power in Paris, as well as the extreme radicalization preferred by these Montagnards. And this revolt or this problem within the revolutionaries, it created a serious issue. It generated a sense of panic. Okay, and this panic actually brought extreme radicals to power. Okay, the people in the Paris, as well as the extreme left, they actually feared that this revolution could be hijacked by the moderates or the enemies of this revolutionary France. As a result of that, the people who were extremely radical, they began to get more publicity, and the national convention began to get dominated by these extreme radicals. Okay, and there was a political club called the Jacobins, and they were the extreme radicals among the Montagnards, and they and their leader Maximilian Robespierre, they began to control France for another 2 years due to these Federalist revolts. Okay, so the power, what they did was they concentrated almost the entire power of this national convention into a 12-member committee of public safety, and this was headed by the leader of the Jacobin club, Maximilian Robespierre. And under his leadership, France, they began to unleash extreme violence on these federalists as well as on these Girondists. Okay, or anyone who was considered as the enemies of revolution was brutally targeted with violence. And this violence happened in France from a period ranging from 1793 to 1794. As a result of that, we characterize this period as the reign of terror. And now we can discuss why this terror was unleashed in France by the extreme radicals like the Jacobins. Okay. Mainly, it was due to the fear that the newly created revolutionary France would be torn apart by a counter revolution or by the moderate factions within the revolutionaries. And it was coupled with a revolutionary favor as well as anti clericalism. During this point of time, the newly created revolutionary France, okay, they began to face military defeats against a coalition created by the other monarchies of Europe. Okay, the other monarchies of Europe, be it be Britain or Prussia or Austria or Piedmont, Sardinia, they all feared the idea of revolution. The ruling elite in these monarchical states, they wanted to defeat these revolution, and they wanted to place the ancient regime in France because they feared that the people in their countries might also get inspired by this revolution, and they considered, and as a result of that, they considered French Revolution as an existential crisis for them. So they formed a military coalition. Okay, mainly which contained Piedmont, Sardinia, Prussia, Austria, and Britain. And they began to attack this revolutionary France in order to overthrow the revolutionary regime. Initially, the armies of the revolutionary France, they faced severe defeats at the hands of coalition. The coalition armies even began to come near Paris. So this created a tremendous sense of fear among the extreme radicals. So what they argued was that the defeat, okay, happened to the armies of revolutionary France was mainly due to the treachery undertaken by the moderates as well as by the enemies of revolution. So they began to target anyone who was considered as the enemies or the critics of revolution, and they unleashed extreme dose of violence towards them as well. Almost all these individuals who were considered as the enemies of the revolution were executed. Okay, so the military defeats against coalition, the Federalist revolts, as well as the economic crisis. Okay, it actually created a sense of fear, and this fear actually turned out into bloody violence. And during the same period, the king Louis the 16th, he tried to flee Paris. Okay, he tried to flee from the protection of the National Guard and tried to seek refuge in Austria, because his wife Mary Antoinette, a notorious figure in the French history, she was actually an Austrian princess. Okay, so king and the queen, they tried to seek refuge in Austria. They fled from the captivity of the National Guard, but they were caught red-handed at the border regions, okay, by the French troops, and they were brought back to Paris. Then they were branded as the enemies of revolution. They were charged with treason. The argument put forward by the revolutionaries was that they were actually instigating with Austria to overthrow the revolution, and the king was finally, king as well as the queen, they were finally executed in 1793. You know, this violence actually turned out into a terror, because this violence was led by the extreme radical faction known as the Jacobins. They created a revolutionary tribunal, and the people were executed without proper trial. Okay, anyone who was suspected as enemies of revolution, or anyone who just criticized the course of revolution, was executed by these revolutionary tribunals. Okay, as per a rough estimate, more than 16,000 individuals were summarily executed alone. Okay. And they also created a new device to execute these individuals, and this device is known as guillotine, and this guillotine later on assumed the status of national razor. The fury of these extreme radicals, it also fell on the Roman Catholic Church. They carried out a program called de-Christianization, because these extreme radicals, these extreme left radicals, they branded a church as a sympathizer to counter revolutionaries. Okay. Many of the priests were accused of helping the members of noble families as well as royal families. Okay, they were accused of treason. Okay, many priests were accused of treason, and as a result of that, the fury of these extreme radicals fell on the Roman Catholic Church as well. The Catholic Church was completely suppressed. Almost 30,000 priests, they were exiled out of France, and more than 100 priests were executed as well during this period known as Reign of Terror. But by 1794, the armies of the revolutionary France, they began to attain victories against the military coalition created by other monarchies. This actually removed a sense of fear that had gripped, the French society. And this actually negated the need for the reign of terror. And finally, in 1794, the reign of terror was ended, and the power of Maximilian Robespierre was also ended. This episode is called as Thermidorian reaction. Okay. The event which finally resulted in the fall of Maximilian Robespierre and the end of Reign of Terror. And this event, or this process, is commonly called as Thermidorian reaction, because this thing actually happened during the French month of Thermidor. Okay. This was actually a coup. Thermidorian reaction was nothing but basically a coup organized by other members of the National Convention against the Jacobins to put an end to this reign of terror. Okay. The deputies, basically they got fed up with the violence and the radicalization under the leadership of these Jacobins. Apart from that, the military victories enjoyed by the revolutionary France against the coalition, it negated the fear of counter revolution. So people began to feel that the need of the reign of terror actually ended. It is time to put an end to this madness. And after a coup, these Jacobins, they were expelled from the National Convention. Their leader, Maximilian Robespierre, was executed. He was guillotined. He was the last person. The interesting thing is that he was the last person who was executed as per this device called guillotine. Robespierre, along with 70 members of his 70 followers, they were executed, thus ending the notorious reign of terror. France then began to witness, some sort of white terror. Okay, after the expulsion of the Jacobins from the National Convention, the other deputies under their leadership, people began to target, the sympathizers and followers of the extreme left. And this particular incident or this event is called as white terror. Okay, the people who belong to the left, they were completely suppressed. And after their suppression, this National Convention brought a new constitution. It was brought out in 1795. And the people of the other members of the National Convention, they brought out a new constitution because they felt that, the National Convention is actually controlled by a mob nature. Okay, so in order to end the political chaos, there should be a strong executive. So the primary aim or the primary function of this new constitution was to create a strong executive called Directory. Directory was actually a 5-member body who enjoyed almost all the executive powers of the state. And Napoleon Bonaparte, he was actually one of the members of this Directory. And after the period from 1795 to 1798, that we will discuss when we have a separate session on Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay. So this is actually basically a rough estimate of French Revolution. And now for our examination point of view, we shall have a discussion on the effects of French Revolution as well. Mainly, it is the most important outcome or the effect of this revolution was that it ended feudalism in France. Okay, from 1798 onwards, Napoleon became the despot of France, but not even him had the courage to bring back this oppressive system called feudalism. And inspired by France, people across the world, they began to overthrow this system in their respective societies as well. It was the feudalism that actually made medieval period medieval. Okay, we can say that ushering of a new era, ushering of the modern world. It actually kick-started from French Revolution, because it was this revolution that actually finally ended the problem of feudalism. Then, in the political discourse, you might have heard about a classification called right, center, and left. Okay, this classification actually first occurred during the course of French Revolution. Okay, the people who actually favored the continuation of the existing systems, okay, or who actually preferred status quo, they were considered as the right. Okay, then the people who preferred change, but through slow reforms, they were branded as centrist. And the people who advocated radical reforms like complete overhaul of the society and economy, they were branded as the left. So in the political discourse of the humanity, we can see an emergence of a left faction only by French Revolution. Okay, so the left, a concept called the left, an ideology called the left began to develop only by French Revolution in world history. Then French Revolution, and the series of events associated with French Revolution, it actually gave a concrete idea regarding the concept or notion called nation. And regarding that, we will discuss that concept in the next slide. Then another important contribution of the French Revolution was the ideal called secularism. Okay, during French Revolution, a strong voice against making a religion as the state religion or suppression of the religious minorities by the state were all expressed by the people of France during the course of this revolution. Okay, so as a result of that, the revolutionary France, even the new regime created by Napoleon Bonaparte, even he actually promoted this doctrine called secularism, disassociation of a state completely from religion. That is actually the definition of secularism: disassociation of state from religion. State will not associate with religion in any form or in any way. So this actually first began to appear in public administration, in political system, during revolutionary France. Okay, so that's why we consider secularism as a contribution or a product of French Revolution. And now, since we discussed a notion that it was French Revolution that actually gave a concrete idea regarding this concept called nation, because see, if you look into the modern day societies, almost all societies consider themselves as a nation. Almost all the states who belong in the 21st century, almost all of them consider themselves as nation states. So how did it all begin? Okay, for that we will have to study French Revolution. See, during the French Revolution, the common people, okay, they had a war cry regarding the idea of fatherland and citizen. Okay, the notion of a fatherland and citizen, a true patriot, had been a strong element, okay, during the course of revolution. So it all started with the idea of fatherland and citizen, which was profoundly seen in French Revolution. Then by 1794, they created a new French flag. Okay, and the present French flag, as you all know, was actually brought up only in 1794. Okay, and along with the new French flag, the ruling class of the revolutionary France, they also created a common hymn for all, and they also began the practice of glorification of the martyrs. Then a centralized government, okay, another important component of all nation states. Okay, centralized government. It also came in revolutionary France for the first time. Then rule of law, another important component of almost all nation states, because nation is actually a sociological concept. Okay, if the members of a society consider, if the members of a society, if they have a sense of unity among themselves, and if they have a sense of belongingness to a particular land, then that society could be considered as a nation. Okay, so if you want to create a sense of unity among society, then everyone should be treated equal before law. Okay, so this was first practically manifested in revolutionary France. And finally, idea of a single language for communication. Okay, the revolutionaries, after assuming power, they introduced this concept, and they began to discourage the regional dialects of France in the name of cementing unity. Okay. So due to all these reasons, we can come to a conclusion that a concrete idea regarding the concept of nation, as we all know, it first appeared in France. So nationalism and secularism, these are the two important products or contribution of French Revolution. When we talk about the political doctrines, but the most important social effect of French Revolution was that it acted as the death knell to feudalism. And we shall end our discussion by discussing a few questions asked by the UPSC as well. No event as encompassing as the French Revolution occurs in an intellectual vacuum. Comment. Second question, if the monarchical rule ignited the French Revolution, lofty ideas both inspired and sustained it. Comment. See, if you have to address these two questions, you should always keep you know, a debate among historians. Okay, you should understand a debate among historians. Then only you will be able to answer the first two questions properly. Some of the historians are of the opinion that the philosophers had no role in French Revolution. Okay, the lofty ideals propounded by the philosophers never had any profound impact on French Revolution. That is an ideological stand, okay, created by some of the historians. But many other historians, they are of the opinion that no, that is not the case. The ideas of Voltaire, Rousseau, it all inspired the people of the France, especially the members of the middle class. So philosophers should be given, okay, enough credit for this revolution. So there is a conflict of opinion among, okay, within the academic circle, and that is the reason why this type of questions are asked. Okay, the monarchical rule ignited the French Revolution. Lofty ideas both inspired and sustained it. So you will have to speak about the political and economic causes. Then you will have to talk about the role of philosophers as well. Okay. And the first question also, it is directly attacking the contribution of the philosophers. But when it, with the first question, you should not stop with the role of philosopher. You should also address the political and economic causes as well. Then throw light on the debate. The third and fourth questions are also similar in nature. Throw light on the debate on the nature of French Revolution. Last question. The French Revolution is the ultimate modernist statement. Destroy everything. Don't build on the past. There is no past. Discuss. The last question is basically a different way of asking the third question. Okay. Basically, it is they are asking for the nature of French Revolution. It started as violence against the nobility, then a republic was proclaimed. Okay, a social and economic restructuring was done, but then by 1792, due to military defeats of the revolutionary fans, fear began to grip the society. It led to a reign of terror, reign of terror by the left. Okay, so the left ideologies and the left ideologues dominated revolutionary France from 1793 to 94. Then they were crushed by the centrist and the right during Thermidorian reaction. From 1795 to 98, the right actually dominated the French political system. Okay, so it is actually a mix. Okay, it is actually a messy thing. The French Revolution is actually a messy thing. So all these things should be brought down. Okay, while you address third and fourth question as well. So finally, I think this session was useful to all the guys who are following it. A big thank you for your patience and support. And once again, if you want a brief and useful printed notes for world history, please feel free to drop a mail on to ecmains@gmail.com. Once again, a big thank you.